Now, with films like Small Things like these and Gladiator, of course, dragging us all off the sofa and into the big screen, as so they should be. Ireland seems to have quite the cinema. We're having the cinema moment, I think, this year.
Yeah, we certainly are. But where and when did our love for going to the pictures begin? Well, here to bring us down memory lane, we are delighted to have folklorist and cinema fan Shane Lehane back with us.
Great to be
Shane,
back.
I think we go to the pictures more than any other country in Europe.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I didn't realise
think
that.
There's something about going to the pictures, you know, right back through time. To be honest, Dahi, I think I grew up in the picture house, okay? And I use those old terms, the picture house, because I think that's what my father used as well long ago, you know? Those terms, movies and cinema, they're not in my head so
They're
much.
new.
But the reason was because my dad actually worked for the cinemas, and he was an artist, and he used to do the lovely signs, what we call the boards, up over.
They're his signs.
Yeah, they're his signs, hand-drawn, beautiful
amazing.
lettering over the front of the cinema. So he knew everybody inside in the old Savoy Theatre here in Cork, okay? And of course, Saturday was my mother's day off, so my father would bring us into town. He'd look after us for a bit, but very quickly he'd send us all off, my brothers and my sister and myself, all off up into the Savoy, and the usherette, she'd be babysitting us all afternoon while my father was off refreshing himself, I'd say, in some hostelry or whatever. But magnificent when you think about the opulence, the absolute huge 2,000 seats in the Savoy Theatre, you know, 3 tiers. You had the
2,000.
2,000, yeah. Imagine this, the Savoy in Dublin, in O'Connell Street, had 3,800 seats. 3,000.
And would they fill that?
They would
movies
fill
back in
that.
the day?
1929, the Savoy in O'Connell Street was built, okay? 1930s were the heyday of cinema in Ireland. Everybody was going to the cinema.
Look at this
It-
lovely old footage.
Yeah, it was, what was so interesting was, right, in and around the time they were building churches, they were also building cinemas. And you kind of had everyone, you had the sacred, everyone was going to mass and so on and so forth. And communally, like Dahi said, we're the biggest cinema-going group in the world. In a way, we were all going to the cinema, and we loved all of that sort of idea, and we loved the attraction of all the marvels of what the world of cinema was bringing. Imagine Ireland coming into its own, the new state that was coming in. All of a sudden, what we were is that, you imagine women were looking at hairstyles, fashion, you know, these
Rita
Hayworth, these magnificent kind of divas that were coming in. Imagine what that was bringing into people's imaginations. All the lads,
They
of
all
course,
do their hair like that and
they
everything.
did,
Of course,
but
they
the
were
lads had their
copying
hair
the Hollywood
greased
stars.
back, you know.
Yeah.
They were like they got the gangster kind of look or
Thanks,
whatever.
Dan.
So
We upped our game, Shane, did we, when we saw all these other people?
the world was opened up to us, Dahi. You know, we think about television now, we think about all those things. This was before all of that. People saw the Grand Canyon for the first time. They saw Australia for
On
the
a
first
big
time.
screen. Think about it, though.
yeah.
It was almost like real to them, I
And,
guess.
and imagine Technicolor coming in, Maura, the Panvision, the big screen that was there. It was absolutely huge, and everyone went to the cinema. If you could get to the cinema, if you were in the city, you had a place to go. Dingle had its own cinema
the Phoenix,
for many
Yeah, it
years.
did,
and so
yeah.
on.
It only closed down a few years ago.
Yeah, and you would all, and I loved the names of the cinemas as well. You know, they gave you the chance of you know, there was the Colosseum, something huge, the Palace, the Pavilion. You know, the
Which was
Odeon.
almost like a theatre, though, of sorts, and it was dramatic
It
inside.
was, and it looked exactly like that.
Yeah.
But
The
in
curtain
addition-
and all.
In addition, exactly, you had the curtain, and I remember the curtain opening up
Yeah.
for the cinema and closing again when the film was over. You know,
Excitement.
but what I loved as well was that, you know, well, one of the things I really remember about the cinema was that everybody smoked in the cinema then.
Of
They
course
were
they
talking
did.
about the era of smoking, right? So what happened was that not only were you smoking, but there was an usherette going around as well, and she was selling cigarettes during the film, right? Okay, and if you remember the lovely cinema seats, you know, the lovely plush seats, there was a little ashtray for everybody as you went along, and you'd see the beam of light coming out, and the whole thing would be full of the fumes of smoke everywhere when you think about it.
I suppose people, they'd lead you with a flashlight too, didn't they?
That was it, you know. Well, if you were, you know, there was often different tickets or different seats, you know. The front was called the flea pit. They were quite often just because you'd have your neck cracked up like that, you see. They were the cheap seats. Later on, then you had the plush seats that were there, okay, that went back. And what would happen is that, you know, when the lights would go off, of course, you'd jump back to the seats were there. But who'd come along? The usher would come along, and the usher was like, the usher was like any policeman you've ever seen. And once the flashlight came down on top of you, you know, and you're
And they were checking your tickets.
checking your tickets and doing all of that.
Checking
It was-
that you weren't sitting too close together either.
But listen, Dahi, this is the best yet, right? As it got older, in the 1970s, then there grew up what we used to know as the jumbo seats.
Yeah.
And the jumbo seats were the special seats at the back of the cinema for courting.
They were double seats.
They were double seats,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you go to the jumbos. Sure, you didn't give a hoot what film was on. You just went in as long as the lights
Yeah,
went
who was
out.
with you either?
So, the lights, and if it was an old, you know, a scary film, all the better, you know.
Oh,
Dracula
yes,
or whatever,
yeah.
so you'd be all hugged on and everything. So when you think about it, it was magnificent. But there were other things too, you know. I think about the usherettes that used to go up and down the aisles. They would be selling sweets as well. And there were special small, lovely fries,
Look at
chocolates, for
that.
Oh my
example.
goodness,
They were-
tiny little
Yeah,
things.
and they were slim, and they were specially like for the cinema, if you like, you know. They were
Now
things that
you
were
go,
gonna
Jane,
get-
and it's just everything is massive.
so big.
Like you have to get
Yeah.
popcorn bigger than your head.
A black sack full of popcorn. They won't give you anything less. It's crazy.
But it is, it's pure madness, and the amount of stuff that people are eating and so on. But we loved it, you know. Long ago as well, then, there wasn't just one film. There was a few films. You go in and you had maybe a short, and that could be a documentary. And we all sat down and watched that because it would be about, you know, bananas or something like that, you know. It would be absolutely, there might be a cartoon that might be on, okay?
Yeah.
And then there'd be a bit of a newsreel sometimes, you know. Then you'd have the ads, some fella telling you, you know, where to buy an engagement ring,
Or,
you know.
or a tin of paint.
That's it. It was absolutely fantastic. Then you'd have the main feature, you know. And I loved it because, you know, we might have the Guns of Navarone or something. And we'd be all coming out then shooting fellas on the bus going, oh. And then you'd have a cowboy film, you know, and we'd be out cowboys and Indians. And there you are.
Crazy, like
Shane, the way you describe things is too much. We're not able. But I suppose you think of the kind of great era as well of, you know, big movies that were made, Hollywood movies in Ireland, like The Quiet Man.
The Quiet Man, you know, and of course Ryan's Daughter as well, the big mega movies that were there. But you know what often happened as well was that when I think about it, I think the Ryan's Daughter and the Quiet Man in particular is like a cowboy film set in Ireland when you think about it with John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara.
Yeah.
But they were regularly put on. We had what were called re-releases, you know. So you might have had something like The Sound of Music, or you might have had something like, you know, Ben-Hur. That would be brought back, you know, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, whatever it might be. So it didn't matter when the film was made. It would keep on being repeated and repeated and be advertised. And we'd all go off. And what I loved as well then, at the end, the national anthem.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
at the end of the film,
Do you know what?
the
That
national
went
anthem
on
would
at
be played.
the late 90s, I'd say.
That was it. It's the 1974 they stopped the national anthem
did they?
for health and safety
Oh, I thought.
reasons.
But the
in case
cinemas
people
were still
started
going
pushing
strong
it
though in the
into other-
90s, weren't they? They were still going strong in the 90s films.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in the old. Do you know I have to fess up to something? You're talking about the ads, and I'd forgotten until now. I was in an ad for to be shown before films in the 90s.
Okay, an ad for what?
I got engaged in an
What age were you?
like early 20s, and I got
How did you get engaged?
a guy that I had to kiss him, like a big actual
Were you in the bucket
kiss.
seats at the back or anything?
No, but I was filmed. This ad was shown at the cinema though. Shane was saying the advertised stuff, and I was in this ad that I was getting engaged
We have to
for a
find that.
jewellery shop.
It's an awful. I'll be rooting through the archives. I'm definitely going to find that
But I
one
had
out.
to snog it like a full-on kiss. It's all just coming
Oh, that
back
was
to me
terrible
now.
altogether. Right?
No,
How
but
you
it was
managed
weird.
that?
We have to find that yet. Believe me, between now and Christmas.
Laszlo Jewelleries in Galway, or one of those places.
Believe me.
There was another one.
Paul
Just
Gilman.
we talk about the cowboy films because some of the cinemas were known as the ranch simply because there was so many cowboy films going on inside there. But there was one usher here in the assembly rooms here in Cork, and he was very well known for keeping it very tight and everything like that. And one of the things is that when any fella got shot, they used to shout out, "Georgie, take out the body." That was it. Right? So he was to keep the cinema nice and clean, you know, take out the body. So
Shane, we have to go. They're roaring at us. Shane, thank you so much for that laugh. I feel I'm in the cinema just being there. I feel I'm transported back.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll find that out as well, Maura. Now, still to come, one of you at home will hopefully win the wheel. You'll